By water cap. It blowed away. It is windy right now.
Equidistant between the two.
Last time we tried, it was like a good temperature, and now it's that same temperature, but it's windy.
But it's windy, yeah.
So it's not a good temperature anymore.
Not really.
Not really.
It's a tad chilly. I have, I have a flannel. I was about to say I have a flannel in my car, but like you're at your house.
Yeah, no, we are at my house, and I definitely could have chose to get warm before coming out here, and it was a conscious decision not to. It's Buddhist.
Okay, if I can entertain, well, I can be entertaining while you go get a robe.
No, I don't want one.
All right.
Give me that stuff though. That little thing.
Hey, shut the fart up. Oh yeah.
Shut the fart up. So, what's been on your mind? I haven't seen you since Friday? Question mark? I don't remember.
What was Friday?
Actually, no. I don't think I did see you on Friday. I think Thursday then.
Yeah, I might have just been all the way back to D&D night. What has been on my mind? Honestly, like, I've been in a kind of, like, depersonalization arc recently.
Depersonalization? Like, what does that mean to you?
Well, like, okay, so maybe this isn't, like, a standard experience or a standard
that's why I'm asking what it means to you. I just want to know what you're experiencing. I don't give a shit about the definition.
So, like, right now it feels like I'm playing myself in third person.
Okay.
And it feels like I'm, like some of the decisions I made, like shaving my beard, like, that should have been a really big decision. That should have been a big event. That's the first time I've ever not had facial hair since I was able to have facial hair. Yeah.
Looking good, by the way.
Danke. It probably won't last because I do actually prefer myself with facial hair.
Yeah.
And that's mostly for, like, you know, being fat reasons. It hides a double chin very well.
It does kind of make, like, especially under the influence, like a totem of your presence. Does that make sense? Just your face being longer. It does. It somehow makes you seem like just like not someone who doesn't have a beard. I don't know if that makes sense.
No. I don't follow that at all.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's my problem for not being able to explain that.
You're good. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I like that it works for femme shit better, but you know, I still been getting he-himmed left and right. It's not like I can just shave my beard and boom, magically I'm perceived as a cis woman, but that's not also what I want. So
yeah,
not really.
And it's not like, I don't think that's how gender ought work anyways. I mean, not to play the, like the overplayed cards, but, you know, there are cis women who have facial hair, and if it's their decision that they don't want to shave every day and, you know, irritate the fuck out of their facial skin, it's like, just she, her, someone who's giving you the indicators, you know?
Yup.
It's really
just, honestly, like, just they, them, everybody. I think much of the, okay, this is going to be a controversial take, and some people, like, I know might disagree with this very heavily, but I think if you don't want to be called they, them, you should probably look at you should probably kill the part of you that cringes. It could fully be that you just don't, like, that you see non-binariness as, like, a new thing and a kids these days thing. And, like, that's demonstrably wrong, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
And
look,
it's like, them is already normalized when you don't know someone's gender. It should be normalized when you don't know someone's gender.
Exactly. It is already normalized. Exactly.
And, like, I know. Okay, I'm gonna take a hit real quick. I know a trans he him that really dislikes being they them. But he's only been on T for like a year, maybe less. No, it's been about a year. So he doesn't have a lot of the markers of someone in our society we normally see him at. And so he gets they them a lot. And by well-meaning people. And and maybe he doesn't straight up take offense at it, but he just doesn't like it. He's like, come on, man.
I mean, it is like a dysphoric thing. Like, I feel obviously like what, and like, I don't think that that's something that every trans person should get past. But like, I ultimately come from the gender abolitionist take, where it's like, if we keep gender around at all, there are no expectations. It's not something based on expectation, you know?
Right, exactly.
And, like, if from that point where you believe that you have no, you to yourself have no responsibilities as gender, then why the fuck do you care if somebody sees you as any gender? I don't know if that fully follows. I might have to like kind of hone in on that for a second. Like
if you're gonna be if you want to abolish gender expectations, then you should abolish the gender expectations within yourself as well.
Exactly.
And how they are applied to you.
Yeah, and that's like I think that's one of the thing. Ooh, very pretty butterfly. I think that's
Schmeinark.
It's one of the things that makes gender fun. From the moment that you're not working within a set of like check marks, everything's a la carte, so to speak.
Like take shit at face value.
Exactly, and I've heard some people like compare gender to like being like culturally Christian. Like, yeah, I go to Sunday, or I don't go to church every Sunday, but I go on Christmas. You know, I don't really follow all the rules. It's like, yeah, you're still gender, but you don't live within those expectations, that rigid framework.
Yeah, you're not going to gender mass every Sunday.
Yeah.
All gender alter boy.
It's like every once in a while, on Valentine's Day, I will put on red lipstick.
Yeah.
And I will dress slutty to the bar to participate in some aspects of the gender that I appreciate. But otherwise, I'm thinking about how I can be the best person and how I can interact with people, you know?
Yep, and not really thinking about gender at all. I guess my thesis statement on the whole thing is that, okay, obviously it's coming from a place of dysphoria that you would get pissed about they, them. But I think that's because they, them is perceived as being gender neutral, and not non-binary.
Yeah.
And there's a fucking difference. There's a very, very large difference in that gender neutral is the absence of a gender, is the absence of binary, of one of the binary genders.
Yeah.
Just non-binary means outside of, beyond, and can mean encompassing. Mm-hmm. So I know people, I'm friends with people, well, just one person I can think of right off the bat, but one person who calls herself a non-binary woman, right? And so, like, if you assume that non-binary shit means just gender neutral, then you say, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but that's not what it means.
Exactly.
It means that she is a woman not in the binary way, not in the traditional established binary way, and
just honestly, going to Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, if we're being farting real here, none of us should be binary in the traditional binary way. It is inherently harmful, reductive, and cagey.
Yeah.
Cajun. So
it's something like, even if you're going to try and make behavioral distinctions between a binary, you're looking at still something around 35-ish% of people who fall within those standards without performing. Like, you know, like people who just so happen to have had nature run all the way in the female direction and all the way in the male direction. Like, it's still a minority of people to which you hold the majority of people up to.
Yeah, literally. Exactly. Yep.
Which
And that's
I
why,
just
like-
I don't why does that then become the ideal? Why is the unachievable thing the thing that you are supposed to strive for? And
Yeah.
in many aspects of life, this goes beyond gender.
Right. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Rather than forgetting even the concept of an ideal, an unachievable ideal. Like that should not. Like the first question of any ideal once taken on should not be is this a good ideal? It should like the first fucking question should be, is this achievable? And
Yeah.
if the answer is no, then it's not for you. It's not for people.
Mm-hmm.
That's not human. That's very inhuman.
Yeah, and if the answer is yes for some and no for others, then it cannot be a societal rule.
Yeah, exactly. That's your personal, that's your PR, bro. You're hitting your PR.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's dope. No, that's fucking sick for you. I'm not gonna try to do that. I can't squat 680.
Yeah.
You know, I can squat like 100, maybe.
I can lift 50 pounds over my head. That's achievable for me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, but like even that, it's like, why does somebody need to do that? Like
Yeah,
what
exactly.
makes the ideal ideal? Exactly.
Yeah, we should ask them that, like fundamental ask questions, and it just seems like so many things have gone without being asked, without being their authority demanded for so long that they just have no right to that authority.
I feel like this is the most stereotypical statement that a 21-year-old trans leftist could say, but Chomsky's been blowing my mind over and over again when like understanding more just the theory that he put forth in manufacturing consent. Like I feel like every time I hear just about like a page of that book, like I hear him just like talk about it, it's like, and I've made the connection that the thing that makes him such an amazing like analyst for this sort of stuff is because his field of study is linguistics. You know, he's like a philosopher for fun. It's so wild. And like also the way that he keeps up with medical literature outside of like language, just because of how much it relates to like his personal theories, just blows my mind. I can't I can like,
dude, I love that you've been getting into Chomsky recently.
He's good.
He's sick, dude.
He's good.
Fucking great. He's the shit.
Next is bell hooks.
Yeah,
Enough people have told me.
For me, next is Chomsky. I need like, actually, because like that's what Men, Masculinity, and Kindness like did for me. Like every page of that shit was blowing my mind. Granted, I was high as god, distracted doing something I really enjoyed, which is washing dishes at the restaurant.
Yeah.
While I was listening to it, and also really high, so it was like the perfect atmosphere for me to be listening to that.
Yeah.
My brain was occupational
Limber.
brain was occupied, and just the conceptual brain was just fucking sponging it in.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I need to do that with Chomsky now.
Yeah.
There's so much shit I do at work now that I could fully fit that in.
And I'm more than sure that there is an audiobook of manufacturing consent that somebody has produced.
Oh god, yeah. But
And-
there's other shit that he's written that I would completely love to read. Totally
Yeah.
love to-
Well, I mean,
A lot
like
of
that
his
came out in the 80s. You know, like
Yeah.
he has more than likely like critiqued manufacturing consent himself since then, in certain senses. You know, like in the actual sense of critique, not like demolished with facts and logic. You know.
Oh yeah, no, that's not a critique. That's clickbait.
Oh my god. The Daily Wire has been upping production of videos. They've been like expanding. They're like an empire. And same with PragerU. Although PragerU's been spitting out videos just at a demonic rate since their inception.
Yeah.
Dude,
I 100% believe that the people who put together all the animations and bullshit in PragerU, unpaid internships.
I would believe it. I watched a video somewhat recently, it came out 4 or 5 months ago, of somebody who went through the hiring process to work for the Daily Wire. And I don't know, it was really funny, just like all the questions like, would you be fine with working with people who speak right-wing views? And it's like, if you are like gay or whatever, like that's fine. It was really strange. Like they're giving people the opportunity to do propaganda against their best interest, which is, I don't know, kind of scary. I feel like they don't need the unpaid internships because they have an infinite well of money to dip into. It's not like the Daily Wire or Prager University actually exist because Dennis Prager was so successful that he could dump $5 million into this. I don't care how much you do in stocks and stuff. It's like, you're not part of the owning class, Prager. You talk a lot. You're the mouthpiece, and their infinite pool of money, like it only trickles down so much as you are willing to fill a separate niche in telling people that they are justified in being classist, in being racist, in being, just bigoted,
Bigot,
Exactly. Well, I mean, you say status quo, and I do think that, like, in the title conservative propaganda, like, it does imply trying to do maintenance upon the status quo, but I do think...
Does it?
I think so. I think that is my internal definition of conservative, and I've not found somebody who self-identifies as conservative who doesn't have a vested interest in maintaining status quo on a societal or social level.
But it's yeah, they do. They will never admit it. That's the thing. It's like they won't, like, or they fully will admit it, but they'll admit it in that, like, society doesn't need
positive change.
Doesn't need change.
Yeah, and but
if it does need change, it's in reaction to the the lizard government.
Mm-hmm. But I think that most of the time, the reason that it is framed in such a way that we are maintaining the status quo is because it's hiding that what the ultimate goal is to roll back, the rights of the working class. It's like that is historically what happens. You set up some sort of equitable society, and then the ruling class want more, and then the working class revolt, and then like that's like the most bumfuck simplistic way to describe class struggle, but it is just historically what happens. And people who are in power want to maintain it and get more.
Yeah.
You would be a fool not to if you were born into power, which is why the system of power is the problem, not the person.
And I don't think like that's even, but what's just so weird about America and like it's bizarrely impressive and successful propaganda campaign is that none of it is actually is framed like that. So like rolling back rights of the working class, for example, putting kids to work, repealing child labor laws is spoken about in the same sentence, context, mindset, everything platform as like anti-trans legislation, and neither of the like anti-trans shit has virtually nothing to do with class.
Yeah.
If
well, I mean,
if possible. Oh, sure it does. But like what I mean is, if possible, conservatives would have trans people not exist across the board.
Yeah.
So they're not like it affects us in class level because everything in a classless society affects people in class ways, but it's not presented as such. Whereas child labor laws is fully a classist. It's classist shit.
Yeah.
Because rich people can afford to not have to put their kids to work.
Exactly, and like your proof of this is in the exact framing of the pro-child labor stuff. It's like it could really help out some families. It's like,
oh yeah,
and
they'll frame
it's like
it all as
so
like no, we're helping you.
Yeah,
like don't you want your kid to get off his Mario Kart playing ass and get to work?
It gets me so worked up because people's ultimate like people who are fully invested in this system of capital, we'll put it that way. I will be nice about how I frame it. Mm-hmm. They will say
these
at this point,
pieces of shit. Worthless waste of human flesh.
Okay. You get to this point in conversation with people very softly. You're very gently nudging them towards, realizing, class struggle and all that sort of stuff. And they'll say, like, you know what, I'm going to say something you might not want to hear. It's just that nobody's ever gonna do anything for you. At the end of the day, you got to do everything yourself.
Holy shit, that's crazy. No one's ever said that before.
No one's ever said it before, and
community doesn't exist.
Community does not exist.
Don't have any
should
friends.
Not exist. You don't have any friends, and not only does your family not owe you, you owe them for the crime of being born.
Yeah, right.
Which is just, it's really wild. And, you can't ever get somebody, like, I asked Postman Chris this the other day. I was like, so do you think it's possible to make millions of dollars off of your work alone? And that is it. Your work, definitionally only your work. The definition of self-sufficiency. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's possible? And then Chris, he's like, well, Taylor Swift. And I was like, nope, Nepo baby for one. For two, record industry. They did all the advertising. If Taylor Swift had personally walked out on the street and handed her album to every single person and got $15 for it, then, that would be self-sufficient. But that would
but
mean...
we know how that goes. We know plenty. There's, we see artists all the time living in Detroit. I used to especially see artists all the time offering me a CD.
Yeah.
None of them had Spotify. None of them were successful. Mm-hmm. They were doing the quote-unquote self-made, pull yourself up by the bootstrap shit, and it doesn't fucking work.
It doesn't work. You might get a few people who have that mindset ingrained who will take and be like, I respect his hustle, and then never, participate in supporting him again.
Yeah, listen to it once in the car and say, yeah, that's not my thing, because of course it's not your thing.
Yeah.
You got approached by one random guy. Do you think it just happened to be your thing? Fuck no.
It's...
When you get your shit spoon-fed across radio waves to millions of people, of course 10,000 of those people are going to be like, yeah, this is my thing.
Exactly. And not only that, regardless of whether or not you can say that this one company does this one thing, we don't operate in a society that has capitalist hegemony, and yet we're still operating under the same system. I don't know if the point I'm trying to make is clear enough yet. The system itself is what allows billionaires to, however you want to frame them, getting money. For me, it's, take advantage of people. And that system allows those billionaires to take advantage of people. There's no way you can consider that self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can consider that risk when you're being encouraged to, take it, so to speak.
By definition, the second you have an employee, you're not self-sufficient anymore.
Yeah.
The fact that you're paying someone means that you rely on their labor.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
you could build robots. Who's going to build the fucking robots?
Yeah,
still not self-sufficient,
Who's going to program them? Who's going to whatever? So, capitalism on it, just by definition, the glory of the self-made man and the corporate ladder cannot exist simultaneously.
Yeah.
Just by definition. So it's a fucking it's cognitive dissonance off the bat. It's a paradox off the bat.
Yeah. Which I have also been I've heard this from multiple people. Funnily enough, one of them was ContraPoints. But
Shout out
ContraPoints. And I just love it. It was in a conversation about conservative queer people. Mm-hmm. And halfway through this conversation, I think that she was tired of being asked, why do you think they do this? She was just like, look, these people are living contradictions. Mm-hmm. I live contradictions. You live contradictions. It's okay. We don't always have to be, rational, but we should want to reduce contradictions within ourselves in society,
Yeah. Or if I have a hard time with this. So I don't think that any quote unquote economic system Oh my god, I hate even saying that phrase because, like, people should not be pushed into an economic system, period.
Yeah.
Just at a fundamental level, humans don't belong in an economic system. Humans belong in a supportive community.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the ideas of fucking system, beyond the ideas of political influence and whatever the fuck. Like, it goes so much deeper than systems and economical systems. But regardless of the economic system, I don't believe that an economic system can exist without paradox.
Yeah.
So one of those paradoxes that I was really talking to Zach about a lot, and that he was having a really hard time with, is that communism, anarcho-communism, is fragile. And so I would say that, like, yes, anarcho-communism is fragile, and therein lies its strength. And what I mean by that is that, like, yeah, if you have essentially wealth distributed unto people's needs, a whole lot of people are suddenly going to be like, oh shit, I can, whatever, greed still will exist. Okay, so
yeah,
and if wealth can be accumulated easily, which is what an anarcho-communist society would look like, if you need shit, you can get shit.
Yeah.
Or if you can pretend to need shit, you can get shit.
Yeah.
Et cetera. Right? So if
you can want shit in a way that doesn't throw people off too much.
yeah. If you can be subtle about you can somehow, I don't know, fake it, whatever. Create a whole underground mob that, like, steals all the resources or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, if that was possible in an anarcho-communist system, and then suddenly you emerge as, like, the most powerful person in this community, like, you could completely upset the balance of everything, whatever. And so he was talking about that, and, I was pointing out, oh my god, that hypothetical is so much more deal-withable and like, destroyable and whatever, rectifiable than the current system right now.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
I know. I was talking with him about this yesterday, and he, what he's been thinking about from that conversation that you had with him is the bread bank. He's like, someone takes over the bread bank because they have a gun. He was talking about the guns and stuff. And, I think his whole concept of what an anarcho-communist society is like kumbaya, like there is no struggle. And I think it's kind of the opposite of that. It is a complete embracing of struggle culturally. And the thing that I ended up telling to him is like, so the problem is not figuring out the best way to actually demolish a system. The problem is building a community wherein your community knows that it owns its means of production, and any single person who seems to be trying to get in the way of that will have a target on their head, and it will be known. Target on their head, sometimes literally, if it gets to that point. There is no reason that an anarcho-communist society has to abolish guns. There's no reason that an anarcho-communist society has to abolish technological advancements either.
It's implementable at any level, in any technology level, and at most cultural and spiritual spaces. It's really interesting because, like, the settler colonial culture is completely antithetical to communism, and so it's like that of all spiritualities, of all cultures, like, is the least conducive to communism being achievable.
Yeah. The closest roots we have to it is saying that it's part of your personal responsibility to give food to poor people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but then it just goes back to individuality, which completely defeats the entire philosophy of community. Yeah, he was having a really hard time with that, and, like, because he saw that as being super fragile, and I could not get across to him that what we have right now is not someone owning the bread bank. It's someone owning the bread bank in the field that the bread was grown on, and the workers that grow the bread, and the workers that sell the bread. it's like it's so much fucking worse.
And the
than
houses they live in.
and the houses,
And-
yeah, sure, exactly.
And the way that the bread is prepared to be given to them.
yeah, and the mobile orders that they use to fucking put their bread order in.
Yeah, and
Like-
and the people delivering the mobile order.
Yeah, exactly. And like it just goes on, like the monopolization and the condensation
Yeah.
of power, like just it doesn't fucking stop.
Mhm.
So, like, first of all, that is so much worse. But second of all, like that fragility is it. What I meant by that fragility is its strength is that when it's upset, we know. We don't really know in
Yeah.
capitalism. We don't really know that much. Like we don't have an alarm going off in our community when PayPal buys Venmo and other
Yeah.
monopolization processes like that and all other like centralization processes like that. We don't know. We don't fight that. We don't like think that's surprising in some ways. Like, oh, DoorDash bought Postmates. Cool, that makes it easier. Like we, like some of us fucking
Yeah.
celebrate that.
It's more convenient.
It celebrates convenience, and all of that is just so that it is literally all of that is to our detriment,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And
Obviously,
I just find it funny you say we don't have any alarm bells go off, and I just think about that chain between conglomeration of power, all the way to I can't believe it. This carton of eggs was $7. Like, and that's when the alarm bell goes off.
yeah,
And it's like
months after the fact.
and like not even because like the carton of eggs going up is like that can be blamed on supply chain issues. That can be reframed as something that's like anti like Gen Z and millennial entitlement.
Someone's got a conspiracy theory that all the eggs are being given to the caravan of immigrants, and so that's why it's expensive for good Americans.
Yeah.
So, it can be reframed a million different ways before the blame is actually put on Big Egg.
Yeah. Yeah. And the few people who are actually against Big Egg think that the lady I can't remember the name of from Moral Oral is the one personally going to stores and drinking all of the raw eggs.
Yeah, right. Oh my god, what is?
I can't fucking remember.
Oh,
It
my
wasn't.
God.
No, I was thinking Nurse Bendy, but she has the same episode. That one terrible episode. The one horrible
episode.
Terrible.
It's rough.
It's
what? Sensidol.
Miss Sensidol.
Sensidol. Yeah.
Could I see either one of those or
Yeah.
one of those or both?
Yeah. Slap this guy. Oh yeah. I forgot I had Benjamin.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of interested in this guy. I like this guy. This lady. I just misgendered Marion.
Oh my god. Who could you?
Twitter. I really just am miffed by how much the cancel culture thing has taken off, like it really gets to me because it's more an individualized phenomenon with common aspects to other individualized phenomenon,
Uh-huh.
and
I
for a
agree.
lot of people what being canceled means is being basically cyber harassed,
Yeah, basically brought into the internet town square and shamed.
Yeah.
And like no actual real world repercussions. But you know what's really interesting is that some comrades of mine talk about, oh my god, that made me sound like a really disgusting cop. I'm so sorry. But some comrades of mine talk about like how during the I'm not even gonna say it. I don't know enough. So anyway, during a particular protest of a particular oil line, there was resistance camps and like a couple organizers within those ended up getting way too much responsibility and were under too much pressure and inevitably fucked up and then got quote unquote canceled. And I say quote unquote not because the experiences they went through like were alleged or weren't that bad or whatever. I say quote unquote because I don't know if if canceled is a good word for it.
Yeah.
But what really happened is that they got like communally shunned, and people talking about their existence behind their back and politicizing their existence and being critiqueful of everything they did. And this happened to a person that I was talking to who was like really fucking badass and was really cool, and was just like and now like they're homeless, and part of that was because of that.
Yeah.
So like the consequences are super real, and it does seem like, okay, maybe it's not a culture of canceling, but it's an overzealousness in the white community to not zealousness. That's not the right word. It's an overestimation, and maybe this is not even in the white community, but I'm only speaking for the white community because I know crackers. In white leftist spaces, it is very, very common right now to think you know more than you actually do. Because many of us, like me, have only been doing this for like 3 fucking years, since April of 2020. Like, the radicalization in April of 2020 was fucking crazy. And that's not even just white people. That's like a lot of people were radicalized around that time, beyond whiteness. And so there's this like assumption that this new generation of leftists knows more than they really do, and so it was like a lot of older people that ended up like bearing the brunt of this public shaming, and it was because they haven't caught up or understand all the language or the movements or whatever the fuck of this younger generation. And like, first of all, in any community, no one person should be taking on more responsibility than they can actually handle, right? That's not according to their means, according to their means. So I don't know. I'm reluctant to talk about. Okay, so like basically what the entire point being that some comments of mine talk about that using the term cancel culture. And so I'm reluctant to talk about cancel culture until we fully define what it is. Like, is this internet liberals or social democrats at best?
Well, see,
like targeting and harassing people who deserve that targeting and harassing.
Here's my current philosophy about it, right? Twitter has been a problem. That's that's out of the equation for a moment in terms of what I'm about to say here, right? Just because of how many people have self-described the experience of being canceled, like I said, it is a disconnected phenomenon with common aspects. And there is
spaces.
Internet spaces, and this goes back to the 80s with like Christians lobbying to get the parental advisory sticker put on like rap albums and like it historically, for some reason, we always want to societally shame a bad to make us feel like we are doing good as a society. I think it's like a human psychological thing to do with like coping with being part of something that is much bigger than you could even comprehend. Do you follow that?
I would say that's pretty Western. Like like just those terms.
Okay.
It feels pretty Western. Like a community that is, or a culture that is bigger than you can comprehend smells Western to me.
It does smell Western, but it's still like my point still stands that it is a phenomenon and being a part of a system that is that complex. Yeah. And I don't know if I think that would necessarily change should any cultural idea become should it be the combination of the culture becoming so complex and you being like framed as an individual component of it. like you say, it sounds very Western. I think that most of the world is as, if not more complex than the United States, and yet it would change because in America we have an individual like responsibility to keep our kids not listening to rap music, but we don't have the ability to do that because we're too busy trying to make it illegal to be black in Congress. So we have to make sure that the music industry is going to do that for us. And that's going to mean that I have participated for the good of society, you know? And so, again, I think that that is like a common framework that our human brains just build at some, rate of maybe, let's call it like risk. There's a risk of having like some sort of satisfaction in culturally shaming an idea, group, or person individually. And when it comes down to shaming a person individually, the cancel culture thing is it is it changes so much based on what level you are at before you are canceled. Like what that actually means. Because as you bring up, like there are people who are otherwise, poor or working class who are, end up being canceled by their community in a sense that might be influenced by the internet.
So that's like fucking decimating to someone.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're Dave Chappelle, it doesn't matter how much clamoring trans people do on the internet, you still get a Netflix special the next year.
Yeah. And I think that when people talk about that, also the implication is that culturally, everybody is expected not to like Dave Chappelle anymore, which is obviously...
That's not true, though.
Yeah. It's very much not true. It's only in hyper online leftist Twitter spaces, which is where, again, Twitter is like a horrible barometer for what cancellation actually means. Because if you are invested in Twitter, any amount of overbearing harassment, overstimulating harassment that you are suspected or expected to engage with to maintain your public image, any amount of that is going to basically seem as if you are incapable of doing your job as an online individual. And I think that is the common aspect that basically everybody who claims that they're canceled experiences, that if they are invested in any amount of like online stuff, then they get harassed, rightfully or not. And that is the experience of like cancellation. Very few people these days actually end up like I think people might talk
celebrities, you'd say, or very few like people who are being canceled by people they don't know the names of.
Yeah. Maybe. Well,
because I wouldn't say like I think it happens all the time. I think like the quote unquote the idea of canceling is something that is, I think that's a new word to describe a very old a thing that's always existed, like public shaming. That's always like, okay, call out posts were what it was called on Tumblr. Same fucking thing as canceling. Exact same shit.
But as I was saying about like it being directly tied to how invested you are in the internet or invested in some sort of industry, I guess cancellation's going to hit you harder. I think a lot of people talk about Bill O'Reilly as an example of the starting of cancel culture. His show was literally canceled because he sexually harassed multiple women on set,
Okay. Shout out Bill O'Reilly.
Free... and it's like
Louis
is that
CK as well was the next one, and that one like pissed a lot of people off because all he did was jerk off on the phone with two women.
All he did was be a sex pest.
Yeah, it was a sex pest.
And I think what's interesting about that is it's like their cultural figure at that point has been canceled, and what has been canceled is their cultural ability to monetize themselves in the same space that they have been culturally monetizing themselves.
Yeah.
And if you
that's
if you are not monetizing yourself on like an industrial scale, cancellation will always hit harder. Because say you are like a ContraPoints, there was some sort of cancellation thing going on with ContraPoints a couple of years ago. I remember none of the details, but I assume that for a moment that did affect ContraPoints' ability to monetize her content. Something along those lines, genuinely did materially affect her, and or psychologically, because...
But that's, again, like, that's a smaller community. That's not, like, she doesn't have a secondary community to turn to and start making money from.
Yeah, well, I mean, ContraPoints always had the option to just start, spouting conservative nonsense. There's always going to be a market for people who want to pay you to say that the transphobia is okay.
I just mean in a genuine way.
Yeah.
That's not just, like, become a grifter. Like, that's... Because, like Chappelle was fairly well-liked in a lot of, like, leftist spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Because he made fun of white people. And that's badass.
It is revolutionary in a sense.
Yeah, but it was like you made fun of white people, and it's like a lot of his sketches in his show was genuinely fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
and
a lot of his specials.
He lost that, like he lost his leftist audience, and ended up gaining because he has such a large Gen X moderate audience, who have almost no critical thinking skills. I don't know what the fuck it is going on with these.
I'm a liberal. You might not like me. I'm a liberal.
Dude, so many goddamn Gen X people, it seems like okay, Norman's got the lead poisoning. We know that, right? Like, it explains so much of the anger and not like the emotional out of touchness. Gen X, what is going on with them? Is that like crack babies or some shit? I don't know. Is that like what is going on there? In that these people, like, it's the critical thinking skills is where they got hit. Like, millennials have critical thinking skills.
Pretty darn good.
Yeah, pretty damn good, and really bad senses of humor. They're not funny. I literally so my buddy Tay, I love them to death. They're really cool. They're unfunny as fuck. They have the most millennial sense of humor. No, that's not true. They're not unfunny. They're just their humor. Like, you have to be feeling like a millennial. I'm good. You have to be adulting that day to find them funny.
You have to be really excited to listen to Rainbow Kitten Surprise that day.
I don't even know what that is.
It's an extremely millennial band. Good music, but like, it is just
yeah.
I feel like Tay loves them, and I have no confirmation of that, and I'm just like 100% sure.
Yeah, right on. That's what's up. Yeah, it's just like, but okay, so millennials have good critical thinking skills, generally fairly based, pretty emotionally intelligent, probably more emotionally intelligent than Gen X at this point.
At this point, for sure.
Not Gen X, Gen Z. Probably more emotionally intelligent than Gen Z. Because they actually, like, care about it as a scientific view. I swear to God, Gen Z is so pseudoscientific, it's fucking insane.
Yeah. Well, I would like to posit that millennials have higher emotional intelligence because a good portion of them grew up reading books. Yeah. And it is just a part of their lexicon, or not their lexicon, but a part of their experience that sometimes we are going to sit down and intake information for multiple hours at a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is just, you read the right string of books for that multiple hours, and then you will be 100% sold on the necessity of science, which is, like...
And maybe it's just because also, like, that, for sure. And also just, like, not, like, living before screens. And just living longer, that maybe I see them as more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. And of course, there is some amount of emotional intelligence that everybody gets to with age, just because, like, no matter how good you are at repressing, like, you still got to come up with some vocal rationales for how you're repressing, and that comes with
and
some recognition.
Have more breakthroughs by that age. You're gonna have more breakdowns.
Yeah,
and maybe also because like Gen Z is so fucking dead inside. Like, we have no hope for the future. I haven't talked to a Gen Z person ever who wants kids. I haven't, like...
I've met a few who have babies.
Sure, and they didn't want them.
I love Aiden.
Yeah, no, I know a Gen
Oh, that's fucked up. I didn't mean that. I just chose Aiden as a common name, but that's Brody's nephew's name.
Oh,
I didn't mean that.
Was that a similar story?
I don't know anything about that, but it's Hunter's kid, so I'm assuming it's got to be dude just really liked raw dog in it. I mean, like, maybe it just seemed like Aiden's mom isn't good enough friends with Hunter to have rationally made the decision to have a child. If anything, it was a common moment of some sort of like mania that led them both to agree if they did, considering that I don't know the story, you know?
You're gonna keep it, yeah. Maybe that's every generation. Maybe every generation's like, no, we're not gonna have any kids. It's not gonna happen. But it's different because this generation isn't not gonna have kids because they want to be like free and party and do all the drugs. No, this generation doesn't want kids because we're all gonna fucking die next year from the carbon pollution, whatever the fuck. Like, there's a disaster on every other corner, and it has nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
it's because we're all gonna fucking die next year.
The people our age who do want kids, we're like, I want to adopt.
Gonna be on the moon, and he'll be just fine. And Bezos will be like in the fucking Swedish Alps, being fed spring water by straight from the Great Lakes, a straw that just goes straight to Lake Superior.
And he when he's not drinking from it, he pays someone to suck from it until it starts doing siphoning, but they can't drink any of the siphoned water.
Fuck no, dude. You don't deserve that. You can drink your own piss if you find time to piss. Like, that's the fucking future that we are left with. And we see that. We're not fucking stupid. We see that. We know that. We're not sold on the American dream. And so we don't want kids because whatever the fuck. It's not personal reasons. I know like Gen Z people who do want kids.
And most of us
are not going to have them.
And most of us are like, if I get to a point where I can, I'm going to adopt. And not like I'd like to, not like, oh, maybe if it could happen, like I am going to adopt if I am going to raise a child, because it's just like more fucking ethical that way because of the future we're faced with.
Everybody needs somebody when the fucking world is burning.
Yeah.
And the goddamn British Columbia is on fire. Like,
that is the best lyric I have ever heard. Everybody needs somebody when the world is burning. I might cry about that one later.
But yeah.
Oh my god.
But that's the only motivation for people to adopt kids right now. Which so having kids is completely out of the question.
Do you think there's dissonance with having? I think there's a lot of people who consider whether or not they would have kids based on resource scarcity at the moment. And there definitely isn't resource scarcity to a point where we can't take care of children on a logistical societal scale. And I think that Gen Z people are thinking about it on almost like a metaphysical way, because like, you know, the future hasn't happened yet, but we have all of the markers to know some things that are going to happen.
Yeah, like water scarcity.
Yeah, and we believe in the future. And in a sense that is metaphysical. I think science is metaphysical because it is describing reality, which is, you know, using language, no matter how inherent and stable that language may be. It's not, you know, written in the stars, so to speak. We still came up with it, you know? And so we Gen Zers who believe in the future and who understand that the future is real in a sense that is beyond the moment, you know?
No, I think you're getting a little vague here.
I'm getting a little vague.
Sorry, I'm not following.
No? Okay. I don't know.
What is like not having kids because of future resource scarcity?
Because I think that a lot of millennials and Gen Zers who are choosing to have, or Gen Xers and Gen Zers who are like making the decision like, I want kids and I want to like conceive of a child, like I think that they are sold on like the stability of the moment, you know, because at the moment there are the resources to feed children.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is something that is
it's
feasible.
like I can squeeze one out before before water becomes more costly than gold or whatever.
I don't think that that's a part of the equation, because I don't think that their analysis of the current situation is looking towards the future. That's what I'm talking about with.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm talking about with, like, for a lot of people who are averse to conceiving of a child because of future resource scarcity. It's like we are believing in the future, like I had said, and I think that whether or not you believe in the future and have the dissonance of just saying, like, no, it's like feasible to have a kid right now. It's like, I don't know. There's more to water scarcity than water scarcity, because then you have climate migration. And then
it's unimaginable at this point. It's man-made horrors beyond our comprehension.
You have drought. You have sea levels continuing to rise because plants can't.
My hope, like, this is why I am not an anarcho-pessimist. Anarcho-pessimist, which is something I called my boss earlier today, because he was like, I'm just making as much money as I can right now, because he was like, this is all going to shit. I may as well enjoy my life right now. And it's like, yeah, no, fucking fair.
Yeah.
But my hope is that by the time your only option is to use public showers, in which you put in $7 to take a shower, whatever the fuck. By the time it's something like that, we, as a society, will be awakened enough to know, okay, violence has to happen.
Yeah.
To the owning class.
Like, whether or not you want to frame yourself as a martyr, you got to be one.
As a what?
As a martyr.
As a martyr.
You got to be willing to do that if the opportunity arises.
Yeah. Like, because there is so much of a leftist shift in culture right now, a revolutionary shift in culture. Like, no, we're not. Nobody gives a fuck about the Kardashians anymore. Mm-hmm. Right? And like you just see, like, nobody cares about rich people anymore. We're fully ready to not start taking violent action against rich people, not yet. But when it's us versus them, we're being primed right now.
Yeah.
for when the struggle quite literally is either I get drinking water or Musk gets another 30 billion gallons for his pool on Mars, for a swimming pool. It was like, when that choice has to be made, well, of course, like, no one's believing the propaganda.
Yeah.
No matter what propaganda comes out of it. Well, actually, the Elon Musk Mars swimming pool is a very sustainable thing. Like, no one's going to be believing that. No matter what the New York Times or Washington Post says at that point, it won't matter, because we are being primed to be revolutionaries. This is a pre-revolution tense period, and luckily for us, culture is being pushed in the right direction. I think a lot more people are being pushed toward the left right now than toward the right. A lot of people talk about, like, everyone's becoming more extreme and there's no such thing as a moderate anymore, and conservatives and libs can't even be in the same room as each other anymore. And, like, all this shit. But at the end of the day, I think more young people are becoming leftists. And then they are going right.
Or at least maybe not just becoming leftist, but not drinking the Kool-Aid to oversimplify. Like a lot of people who still might say, like, just scientifically, the best life outcomes are for 1 man, 1 woman, 2.5 children. Yeah. Like, people who are still conservative in a very real way, they are much more willing to admit, it's like, well, my friend's mom got abandoned, and she did, like, a kick-ass job, and grandma was super in, and grandpa was cool, and like, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like there's just an awareness of environmental factors, you know, like there's not as much complete belief that like hard work exactly equals
that's like statistic, that's demonstrably true, that the majority of Americans don't believe hard work will equal a positive life outcome anymore.
Yeah,
hard work will not reward you.
I don't know if that's inherently leftist, but it is inherently
it's revolutionary.
anti-conservative. Yeah,
it's anti. I think it's anti-leftist. It is leftist because it is anti-status quo. And when I talk about when I say status quo,
no, I like that.
Is that when I talk about when I say status quo is not just that. It goes beyond like the founding fathers status quo of property owning white men are inherently the owning class, should be the ruling class of everything all the time everywhere. Right, it goes beyond that. Like it's and being anti-status quo to my brain right now means that you understand that the current situation in a material conditions way is fucked beyond repair and into territory of it needs to be abolished.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are getting to that point. And maybe and of course there's folks that like talk about reforming shit, but the reforms so many reformists, quote unquote reformists, talk about now are like, oh, so abolish it and start over. Like that's the level they're talking.
Yeah.
It's not like put a few bad cops in jail. Like no one's buying that shit anymore.
Yeah, you can't, because like a few bad cops go in jail and then like a few people who just had drank the Kool-Aid but weren't statistically measurably Kool-Aid filled enough. Like
they were like the Kool-Aid man, but only like a couple cups in there, not a full gallon or whatever.
But then they reverse engineer the Kool-Aid. You know, they're like, I'm the sheriff now because that guy's out, and you know, like I'm gonna be better than him just because like the optics, man.
Yeah.
But like, I'm gonna still.
Oh yeah, police gangs aren't going away. Police unions are still going to be what they are. You know, blue coat is still going to be a thing. Like no one is thinking about that anymore.
Yeah.
Individual accountability is becoming a talking point of a small amount of people. A small but loud amount of people. Individual accountability is what liberals call revolutionary. And less people are buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Less and less people are buying that. I'm trying to think of a good example. Taking Bill O'Reilly's show off the air solves the problem of patriarchy. No, like we're not thinking of the majority of young people are not thinking about that anymore. I firmly believe that the majority of young people have the brain capacity to understand that the fact that there are police gangs says nothing about the individual cops and says everything about the police as a concept.
Yeah.
And they get that. And maybe young people aren't putting that into words. Maybe if they are putting it into words, they're like, well, maybe as an alternative we have like cops can only work in their own fucking 1 block mile. So look, you know, they're coming up with plenty of quote-unquote reformist ideas, but to actually implement these reforms means abolition first.
Yeah.
Of the status quo, which still puts them solidly in the realm of a revolutionary.
Look, and to somebody who believes in those, you know, like, 1 mile block cops, it's like, you know, all of the people who are, 20 square mile gang leaders, like, they automatically get held personally accountable by the reform that you want. So it is more important, or by the reform that we advocate for, I should say. Maybe not that you know, just the reform being like like 1 mile block cops and but it's still, they're still in blue, they still have guns and stuff like that. It's like
but I think even then, like that reform in and of itself is revolutionary. Like that's unthinkable to the old time conservative, to the liberal brain.
To the liberal brain
cannot comprehend that. That is such a big reform that the liberal brain can't comprehend that. Anyway, please continue.
Oh no, we wrapped it up there.
Ah. You know what word I don't like? Progressive.
Yeah.
And simply because it's way too subjective, and it does not accurately portray the reality of the U.S. If we continue on the current path of quote-unquote progression that the U.S. has been on since its inception, it will simply mean better at hiding. anything distasteful, anything culturally distasteful, maybe fight a war about it, maybe, and then by the end of it, we're just good at hiding it through legislation and sneaky practices.
Yeah.
Chattel slavery was never abolished; it just got renamed to private prisons and prison labor,
and then got fully expanded into suburban sprawl.
Maybe not chattel slavery. So chattel slavery was abolished, of course, obviously, but it was reframed. It was reframed and whatever.
Look. I understand the definition of chattel slavery is very different than the conditions of people who end up in private prisons.
Yeah.
But listen, private prisons can bid on how many prisoners they get to take in. It has nothing to do with what part of the fucking state that you're coming from.
Yeah.
The reason that we have big prisons around Detroit is because it's simply more fucking convenient to bid on Detroit prisoners if you're out in Mount Clemens. Like, I am very passionate about this. Like,
it is chattel slavery.
It's like, if you can buy somebody, it is chattel slavery or indentured servitude, which is still just like...
It's not indentured servitude, though, because the work doesn't buy your freedom.
Yeah.
The work is just something that you're forced to do, period, whether you like it or not.
You're getting paid. You can get commissary.
Yeah, 17 cents an hour is not being paid.
I know, and for some people, that 17 cents an hour, like, build that up into a $20 copay for an inhaler, which, like, you'd be lucky if you've got bad asthma and you're in a prison that's very dusty. If you've got an inhaler that's going to last you like 21 days, and so all of your money is instantly going to that, unless you have somebody on the outside spoon feeding you money for your necessities, which is not a guarantee. Then. You know, you are completely just forced to work to survive, to live, because it will not be provided to you. And if it is provided to you,
prison medical healthcare is like notoriously pathetic.
It's
purposely
maddening.
Maddening, infuriating. Like if prisoners were given the same platforms as any other human being on this fucking earth, basically. If prisoners were given like a Joe Rogan podcast guest. If he had someone who was like in prison for more than 30 years, just across multiple compounds, whatever. The stories that one person could tell would infuriate half the fucking continent. It would infuriate just millions of people would instantly be, whatever.
And take it a step further, if Joe Rogan gets a guest who is a nerdy-looking, college-graduated white person who has studied the experiences of that person that he could also have on, who would probably be more entertaining and more engaging, you could convert 300,000 people into being prison reformist in a finger snap. And for the recording, it was air quotes around prison reformist.
Right. And 10,000 of them would be prison abolitionists fully. Like, it's like the conditions are so bad that the only way for private prisons to continue operations as normal is for that information to be suppressed. And private prison owners are big enough and powerful enough to do the lobbying needed, to do the
you want to hear some crazy shit?
The media, the PR needed to keep that shit repressed.
You want to hear some crazy shit?
Oh, can I? I'll wrap up my entire thing.
Okay, got you.
On prisons. tangent into prisons, but I wanted to include that, and segregation became redlining, which became, oh my god, dude, fucking white supremacy is so insidious. You don't even need legal or paperwork type systems to segregate.
I know, you scare one white lady who's on the HOA and that person is not getting a house.
What I'm saying, like, you just need a culture of white supremacy to retain the norms of white supremacy. You don't even need the laws. So yeah, HOAs are notoriously segregational. Who real estate agents will sell to? Notoriously segregational.
Are you telling me that Polish communities shouldn't be able to stick together? They have such big festivals. Have you ever gone?
Yeah. No, it's like.
What do you think that culture as a whole is bad? Well, but
I know. I'm sorry that you had a point, but I'm riffing for a moment here, and this is my last part of this little riff. I'm ending it off on a little diminished chord here. Don't you think that a culture wants to protect its own people?
Yeah.
Shouldn't a culture want to protect its own people?
Hey, Irish were slaves too. That's the one. So I don't know. That's like, what was I gonna say? Oh, that's what progression means to me. Is being better and better at hiding it until it's. And so to my brain, Western progression at a revolutionary level is regressive, because it's just pushing white supremacy into culture and out of legislation and into brain wiring.
Yeah.
And in the culture. Like, the fact that there were so many white abolitionists during the Civil War is testament to the fact that the white brain has not, quote unquote, progressed. It's just the PR's gotten better.
The PR's, yeah.
It's just the way of hiding it. It's just knowing what's taboo and what's not has gotten better.
Yeah, and that's like the whole purpose of dog whistling, and that's what's so scary about like the breakdown of euphemism that we're experiencing with fucking like, particularly what's his fuck from Florida, Ron DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
Like, particularly him, and then like with Trump before him talking about well, and then also like with Hillary describing people as super predators. Like it has been just part of culture the whole time that some people will not use the dog whistle and will prefer to say out loud, but like
right, or just be too stupid to use a dog whistle.
Yeah, but it's the prevalence at the moment that is scary. It's like you are either actively foghorning, which is the thing I've heard as opposed to dog whistling. You're either actively foghorning or you're not a part of that group.
Yeah.
Or you're just like some sort of holdover from a past day, and you've got your ideals, but you're not keeping up with the times, you know?
Yeah, and that's why, we'll never... Oh my god, that literally just comes down to my entire, thesis for revolution, is that it's not something that can be fought in the streets until it's something that is fought in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a mental revolution first. It has to be people waking up and realizing, oh fuck, I do have white supremacist tendencies. I do whatever. Oh, I assume every bad driver on the road is a black woman. Oh shit, what does that mean in my brain? You know?
I find it so funny that when people somewhat accurately describe being woke as like an awareness that there are systemic injustices that need to be atoned for, like that's like a definition that even some conservatives are willing to give. It's like, you don't even know what you're like saying that you think they know. You are like unaware of what that actually entails, because if you actually understood why one can become awakened to it, like if you understood that it is inherent, it's not something to do with these people, it's not something to do with their ideology, like there is no way to become sleepend to it again. Like maybe you can be like dulled, maybe, or something like that. But it's just
Yeah, there is. I think that's what one of the things that makes something like CNN being the far left version of,
Yeah.
because as soon as you get a car, a house, a decent job, and can support families and watch CNN is your one and only source of entertainment, I think it's very easy to slip into the quote unquote I've never heard people use this term, but I think it fully exists, especially for whites. The liberal rabbit hole.
ha, yeah,
Like the conservative rabbit hole, oh god, yeah. But the far moderate, the extra moderate rabbit
yeah.
hole.
I have been hearing people talk like they call it enlightened centrism, but I think that radical liberalism,
Yeah, fucking insane.
like
Yeah, radical liberalism. Like the radicalness of it is
it's like almost
believing that horseshoe theory is real.
yeah.
And that no, it is in fact better to be a moderate, and yes, it is in fact
You know,
better
we can lean left in some ways, but like fiscally though.
Well, it's like it's not only that, but it's also like refusing to admit that violence is necessary to make positive change.
Yeah.
You know, like that's so many people's line in the sand, and
Oh yeah, the whole like
it's a sham line
yeah,
because
but
the violence that white supremacists.
it's amazing optics.
Yeah, it's
It's
incredible. Because it comes down to individual responsibility above all else. You know, like I as an individual, I'm not a murderer. I would never kill someone.
I would never kill someone.
I don't care how many people are saved. Well, no, it's like they won't even admit. So many people would not even admit that right now, killing some people would help others.
Do you think that's why people have such a problem with the trolley problem?
Yeah.
Oh my
So many
god.
people have like trouble about pulling the lever. So many people like see Daredevil's no-kill policy as a good thing.
Just shift it
So
over.
many people see Batman's no-kill policy as a good thing, simply because the white liberal mind cannot comprehend that violence can do good.
It's wild. It's just shift the trolley problem over. What you have in front of you is Elon Musk and Donald Trump talking with Joe Rogan in a mock-up podcast in a march going down the biggest city in the United States, no matter what that is, being physically carried on a platform by tens of thousands of people, and you have a gun in your hand. And these people are being held at gunpoint already, but you have a clear shot at the people being held up. It's like,
and if you
reframe that problem.
If you cap Musk,
maybe that was
Musk and Bezos.
I didn't say that well enough.
No, this is good. I'm expounding on it. So if you cap Musk and Bezos, the 10,000 people being forced to carry them are suddenly free.
Yeah. Like this is a hypothetical magical scenario.
So
do not kill Donald Trump. Do not kill.
Yeah. So the liberal would say, well, there's 10,000 people being adequately compensated?
Yeah. Oh my god.
I mean, they can live, right?
Look,
they're being paid enough to eat,
look,
right?
They get to go home to their child gets to go to a good school.
Yes.
Okay.
Good school zones.
Yeah.
And look, there's diversity.
Yeah.
There's what
There are so many gay white people.
there's everybody. Oh my god, there's an Indian guy carrying Donald Trump's left nut. You know, whatever. Like, I'm sure he's being paid just as much as that white man. And like the point being,
That one's smiling.
dude. Oh my god, I was watching this TikTok about like medieval and late Dark Ages paintings of peasantry, and how many of them were just smiling, and like it's because rich people at the time had the art supplies and to make art, and more than that, also like this art would be held in private collections where it could be saved.
Yeah.
So what we have remaining from the Dark Ages is like neoliberal status quo propaganda
Whoa.
of like the happy proletariat.
Yeah.
You know, the serfs gathering bundles of wheat for their feudal lord, but then 10 of them are over there under a tree chilling out and taking their well-deserved rest and smoking and living a wonderful serf life. Which, like, we know is factually incorrect.
Yeah.
Because we know what the age averages were for serfs versus royalty. But
I absolutely love that the antidote to, I guess you would say the archived version of the Dark Ages is, whatever musical or artistic traditions might have just been passed down in a completely non-archived
the
way.
folklore.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. I absolutely adore that. And also, another thing that I picked up from Chomsky recently is he described religion and basically all mythos about the nature of the world and humanity, whatnot, as folk science, which I also adore.
Yeah.
I fucking adore that.
That's great.
I can't
because he understands that quote unquote science, just science, is fully coming from a place of privilege.
Yeah.
Like people researching just like the thesis questions before a study and like the abstracts before a study come from a place of privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And so okay, that's really beautiful.
It's and also I love that it respects it. It puts it on the same level. Like when I said earlier, I picked up science being metaphysical from Noam Chomsky, and I extrapolated that in my head to mean that because science is a description of the natural world through human language, and human language is a social construct, no matter how rigid human science is, it's still not inherent to existence. And so because of that, yeah, philosophically it is on the same level as religion, and they do have to be rectified with each other in a meaningful way from a point of privilege. Like
they have to be, or they just are currently.
Well, it has to be rectified for you to make sense, maybe I should say. You have to rectify that just because you have a bunch of numbers that say that you are correct, that you still have to engage with people who, engage with folk science, Maybe saying that you have to rectify that kind of, I think maybe the implication that I might have given was that you have to believe that religion is valid as science, which I don't.
Well, validity is like a concept that is inherent to science. It's not inherent to religion.
Yeah.
So that's why it kind of bugs me that like the atheist versus Christian arguments, and I say that as if there's not atheist versus Muslims, whatever. But whatever. The
atheist versus agnostic,
religious person. Look, why that is even a conversation, and it's always debated on the prove it to me basis. Yeah, that's the groundwork, and religious people will always come up short because religion and spirituality are not about proof.
Yeah,
it's not about proof.
We're talking about a completely different set of metaphysics.
But you're demanding that a religious person explain Christianity like you would a fucking new theory about some science shit.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the historical reasons why that might have been the dichotomy is just because of how much of the philosophy that led to science was linked with people who might have rectified their philosophy with, folk science.
I don't quite understand that. Or maybe an example.
If we're talking about a debate, not between two people, and not between an atheist. We're not talking about Elmir at the Dovetail talking to Dolinar. It's I'm talking about any number of things that maybe Sam Harris might have done with somebody else. If we're talking about that formal setting, it is under mutual education on philosophy, right? maybe that's like not exactly a necessity for like debating with people like that, but like that is the foundation. That is how they are arguing with each other. It's like they're defining validity based on shit some people said, and there is cool shit that people said who were Christians, and cool shit that people said who weren't Christians,
Right.
and so under this common framework of philosophy, there is that contradiction between atheist and Christian.
So you think it has to, like, an argument between an atheist and a Christian should be a philosophical debate rather than a show me proof of God debate?
I think that it is, at least more recently, the only things that I have heard that are interesting.
Yeah.
And on a certain level where it seems like the two people talking with each other are actually talking from like a point where they can understand each other.
And they can actually, yeah, right.
And-
it's like that Bill, it was Bill Nye versus Ham. What's that guy's name?
I don't know. I know my dad watched
the Christian
it.
dude.
I know my dad watched it in
my
like
God,
2011.
Is that John Ham? I know he's the white Idris Elba. It's whatever. So that in 2011 that was like a big deal, and I remember buddies of mine who were still Christian.
Or I might have been 11. It could have been 2013.
It was ancient, regardless.
Yeah.
That's fucking 10 years ago. But yeah, like they were like, fuck, dude, we got our asses kicked. Like Christianity got its asses kicked because Bill Nye kept putting the Christo-fascist dude into a point where he was saying, well, my proof is in the Bible. Proof? Yeah, the Bible. The Bible proves the Bible. And the Bible and the Bible. And like that's what he was basing everything on. And that's only because it was a question of not spirituality, not philosophy, not theology, beyond atheist science. You know, it was always a question of, well, prove it, which, yeah, completely antithetical to spirituality
And completely from a foundation of science, your metaphysics.
and completely from science. And I think the only reason that Christians thought that it was a good conversation to have in the first place is because they approach Christianity as if everyone's spiritual journey is the same. Therefore, the reason they are spiritual must have provability. Because, hey, we all believe in Jesus, therefore Jesus must be provable. Which is fucking ridiculous. Like, it's spiritual people not even knowing religious people not understanding what spirituality is. It's intensely personal.
Yeah.
It has to be personal, or...
Well, and they will say, like, I have a personal relationship with Jesus, and they will also say that, like, you know, what the Holy Spirit says to you, like, cannot be spoken, lest ye, like, you know, be speaking prophecy that may not be true. Like,
right.
It's like, you know, there are Christian philosophical answers to that problem already that have been in place for thousands of years longer than us.
But they don't apply that to the idea of provability.
Exactly.
Of God's existence. Like, no, you... Like a conversation between an atheist and a Christian cannot happen at any like objective. It has to only just be a conversation. It can't be a debate. Just by the nature of what spirituality is. And fuck, dude, like that's one of the reasons I hate. Not hate, but I really dislike talking to like former debate student type people.
Yeah.
Is because they think that everything can be talked about in a debate manner. That everything, you just define your terms enough and it's a good conversation.
Dude.
Like, no.
That's like, people who think they're former debate people, like Emmanuel, like sometimes I'll be trying to, like on a, trying to speak to anybody at the Dovetail that's based on a personal language that just comes along with having like a positive repertoire with somebody, like trying to use that mutual understanding that goes beyond dictionaries. And like I'll say something that, you know, on paper might, you know, you can't prove that.
Yeah.
But that's not the point in what I'm saying, you know? And like, even though I think
it's
I could.
appealing to someone, to the person you're having a conversation with. It's appealing to what they know about the thing you're talking about.
Yeah, and
Not
that is
to common knowledge of that thing, but to what they personally know.
Mm-hmm. And like when Emmanuel witnesses me do stuff like that, I think I might have talked with you about this and
Yeah.
shit. I might have talked with you about this last time we sat down like this, but
Yeah.
it was like
Languages.
yeah, exactly. You're gonna define language for me, all right? And it's like, well, Webster says that it's all verbal communication, and it's like, all right, so,
Books aren't written in a language.
yeah. Oh, okay, so now it's articles of language, and it's like, well, where does that start and end? It's all.
Webster does not say that. I guarantee you, Emmanuel.
He looked it up. He did do the math. He did look it up in front of me. And like,
course he did.
I was about to try and go into my diatribe about there are fish that have been shown to send out electromagnetic signals to other fish that have electromagnetic receivers, and that the pattern of emittance and receival tend to mimic conversation.
Yeah.
They are talking to each other.
Yeah.
Whatever they're doing, they are corresponding.
Yeah, if you think there's not a language there.
So what is an article of language then?
Right.
If they are communicating, and that is the foundation of what language is a way to communicate with other thinking people, thinking beings, like how it's like I hate your terms. I hate your debate terms.
I fucking hate your debate.
Which
makes it impossible to debate someone. If you can't stand their terms, and if someone keeps using the same word for something that you know damn well is not the right word for it, or maybe it is the right word, whatever. If you hate that use of the word, I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's say progressive. A lot of people I know, so many people I know, would love to call themselves progressive. I refuse to call myself that. I'm not progressive. I think my ideas are old as fucking time. They're as old as the quote-unquote regressive ideas. And I think many progressive ideas right now really just come down to PR, and progressive people would be whatever. So, yeah, that's the term I like. Like, if someone was talking about progressiveness in a /pos way, I couldn't stand that. Like, I don't care how much you define this term, it's wrong. American white supremacist patriarchal progressiveness is not a healthy, good progression. It's just a PR progression.
Yeah. And I guess maybe if we get down to talking with people about like the progress, it's like you say progressive, and my question is progress towards what? And if you say proliferation of access to resources necessary to live and the means of production, okay, comrade, all right,
It's tolerable.
It's tolerable.
It's just not the best way to describe it.
I know, and it's like you are treating like this term like you're like you should be treating your relationship with spirituality. It's like, this term actually does have a very established cultural meaning, to people. People will identify you with a certain group of people if you identify as progressives.
Yes, like the Progressive Party was a thing.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
Yeah, and they got elected in the 30s.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, right. So, like, it is a thing. It's not like it's not a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to piss and I'm cold. Are you down to wrap this up?
Yeah. Alright, well, good night.
Good night.